Melissa Deely here with day 10 of my series on hormones running through the month of October. And today I'm going to be talking about diseases of the thyroid, which are becoming more common, as well as some interesting stats around these. So first of all, I want to talk about Graves' disease, which is a form of hyperthyroidism. And it's an autoimmune disease when our immune system attacks our thyroid, causing it to produce more T4. And this causes the thyroid gland to swell. On the opposite side of that is hypothyroidism, also an autoimmune disease, and more commonly known as Hashimoto's. And this is when our body is not producing enough T4 for what we need to be in balance within our body. And this can also cause the gland to be enlarged because in this case, we will see a high level of TSH, which is the thyroid stimulating hormone. And as the body keeps producing that, it can cause the thyroid gland to swell. Then we have something called multinodular goiters, which are fluid-filled or solid nodules that will develop on either side of the thyroid in our neck. Sometimes they will grow only on one side, but more frequently they will develop on both sides. And very often they are benign, but always good to get them checked out. And then, of course, there's thyroid cancer. Fortunately, this is much less common than the goiters and the benign nodules, but of course, we want to have a biopsy to make sure that it's not cancerous or to know if it is in order to be able to treat it properly. Pregnancy is a time when our body is producing different hormones than it normally is, obviously, as we're growing a baby and creating new life, and that can sometimes cause a condition that will have the thyroid gland become slightly enlarged. And then lastly, there's thyroiditis, which is inflammation of the gland, and it also can produce an overproduction of T4. So these are the most common diseases of the thyroid. You've likely heard of Hashimoto's or possibly know someone who is struggling with Hashimoto's right now because it is getting far more common. And then, as I said, the opposite end of that is Graves' disease. And either way, what we are seeing with these autoimmune issues, as I've said before, is that so many times they start with leaky gut and our gut being out of balance. And so if we take actions to clean up our gut, we can also start to help our body cope with where we're at and start the healing process. So interestingly, as an example, 69% of people with Hashimoto's struggle with wheat, and 32% struggle with soy. 51% struggle with dairy, and 44% struggle with alcohol. These are all things that many people in our world today are struggling with as our trash cans are overflowing and our body's just unable to cope with the imbalance that we've created in the environment inside our microbiome. But the great news is that we can absolutely do things about this and make some changes in our diet and in our lifestyle in order to help bring our body back into balance. And I'm not going to say it's easy, it is work. But what I am going to tell you is that our human body is designed to heal, and it is really incredible at healing when we create that environment for it to do so. And when I work with my clients, very often it's around the 10-day mark of any shift that we've made in their diet that they start to notice the benefits. And in some cases, it's even earlier. And when they start to notice those benefits after struggling for a long time, it's really motivating and they want to keep going. And so I invite you to step into looking at some other options if you are struggling with these diseases, or even just getting yourself tested to find out if you may have these diseases. And when I'm back next week, I will be talking about signs and symptoms of them as well to help you figure that out. But we can test for these things. And when we test and we see that your markers are just a little bit outside of normal, that's great because you can then make some lifestyle changes and adjust so that you don't get the fully blown conditions because you're able to see that coming and make the adjustments as needed. So here's some interesting stats as well. Women are 7 times more likely than men to develop thyroid diseases. 1 in 8 women will develop a thyroid disease. As I said the other day, that when I'm looking at adrenals, I also want to be looking at the thyroid because stress has such an impact on both. And when we're burning through the minerals and vitamins in our body, we are tearing down its ability to be able to function as it should. And so very often it is high stress that can trigger some of these. It's usually high stress plus some other triggers and imbalance in the body that trigger all of this to happen in the first place, a cascading effect of a few things going on. But as I said, we can totally turn that around with the right guidance, the adjustments to lifestyle changes and nutrition, etc. More than 20 million people have been diagnosed with thyroid disease. And the American Thyroid Association estimates that 60% of people are unaware of their thyroid imbalances. And subclinical thyroid imbalances are even more prevalent than the disease state. And that makes sense because that would be all of the people that just absolutely have no idea. And their numbers are just slightly off and not yet classified as disease. So this is something that we can do things about. It's something that we should all be talking about because it's becoming a more prevalent disease, to let people know and let people know that there is testing that can be done, and also some lifestyle changes and natural remedies and nutritional changes that can be done to help bring the body back into balance, to get the thyroid functioning back the way that it should be for us. So wishing you a wonderful day, and I will be back next week to talk more about the symptoms of some of these so that you're aware of what they are and can help people that may be struggling.